We're here. I'm here with a. You gotta get closer. Yeah. Yeah. This. It's because this stupid. When you go live on here, it's. All right. I'm here with Charmander, fresh out of jail in DeKalb County, Georgia. Well, we're in Ohio, but he just got out of DeKalb County in Georgia. How long were you in there, Charmander?
37 days.
Shit, that's a lot. That's like a long time to be stuck.
It's not a long time compared to some people.
I know. Oh man, I can't imagine because I haven't been to jail a day in my life. I've been to like mental institutions and stuff, which is a little similar, but
it's probably yeah.
No, jail's worse. I'm sure jail's worse.
Well, yeah, it was bad.
Why'd you go in there?
Well, it wasn't voluntary.
Obviously.
I was arrested in the Weelaunee Forest for being in the forest.
Sitting in a tree, right?
Yes, they arrested me when I was in a tree. They shot me with pepper balls until I came down and then arrested me. And then off.
Do you mind telling us what the charges were?
Oh yeah, they charged me with domestic terrorism.
What is that?
Well, it's a felony. I don't really know what the conditions are to be charged with. It's kind of like a bogus charge. I wasn't doing anything violent. I was sitting in a tree.
So just wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. I don't know.
I'm not answering that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's going on in the forest? Can you talk about why the stormtroopers went into the forest?
So the Atlanta police are trying to build a public safety center and clear like 85 acres for the facility. I think the parcel itself is like 300 or 400 acres. And then that's on the west side of the forest. And then there's a creek that runs through the middle, kind of divides it into like two parts. And then the east side of the forest is still public property, but there's Ryan Millsap, who is the ex-CEO of Blackhall, now known as Shadowbox Studios. And he was trying to do a land swap with DeKalb County, like kind of like behind closed doors, which is illegal. And so yeah, they're trying to do a land swap. So there's like part of that public property, which is like kind of like being contested right now.
So how many raids have there been in the past, I don't know, say 3 months or so?
Well, there was a big raid in December where they arrested, I think, 5 or 6 people and charged them with domestic terrorism. And then there was another huge raid on January 18th, I believe. And that's when I was arrested. And I think 7 of us were arrested that day. And then the next weekend, there were protests that happened and more like people were arrested. Oh, and then recently there was like a week of action and 23 people were charged with domestic terrorism. And those people were literally just like attending a festival, a concert. Like they're slapping people with domestic terrorism charges just for being at a concert.
So are they hoping that if they throw enough stuff against the wall, something will stick?
That's pretty much what it seems like. They're just trying to get someone on a domestic terrorism charge. It just seems like bureaucracy. People are trying to like boost their portfolios or something,
right?
And get that FBI job or some shit. I don't know. Like,
And they don't care. They don't care about the who they hurt in the process, really.
nope. They killed a friend of mine. They shot him at least 13 times.
13 times. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. And we don't really know what happened there. The police claimed he shot first, but
Of course they did.
I don't know if we'll ever really know, because the only people alive were the cops.
Right. Can you tell us what your experience in jail was like?
It was bad. Well, first they hold you in a holding cell for about a day, and it's like a small, medium-sized room, maybe like an 8 by 15 or something like that. And there were maybe a little bit bigger, but there were like a dozen people in there. It's not comfortable. There's no padding. There's just like concrete. Some people are very not pleasant to be around. And the guards don't really care. They'll take you out of the cell maybe to like go to first appearance or do medical interviews. And then eventually they'll put you like in a pod with
What's a pod?
Cells. A pod is just a larger room. It's got like 16 cells. In DeKalb County Jail, there are 16 cells in a pod. And then there's like multiple pods on the floor. There's like a, I don't know, panopticon or whatever in the middle that can see like all the pods. And there's a lot of gang members in the jail who kind of like run things when the guards aren't. So, you got to be careful like what you say and what you do around other people. The jail wasn't feeding me vegan meals for like a week or so. And then even after that, like maybe like 2/3 of the food was vegan. Like they'd give me like cakes or cornbread that probably weren't vegan. And then they gave me ham sandwiches or cheese sandwiches. There's a label on the outside of the bag and it says vegan diet. It's like, these people don't give a shit. Like,
do you think that was like actual ignorance, or do you think that was just people being like assholes?
Probably ignorance. They just, or I don't know.
Could someone be that ignorant to think to not know what vegan, like they're like, okay, we have to supply this guy vegan diet, let's give him a ham sandwich. Like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like,
I don't think that the people who work these jobs actually know much about diet. Yeah. So.
Right. So did you experience, like, do you mind, if you don't mind sharing, don't feel pressured to share if you don't want to, but what was the most negative, other than the food, what was the most negative thing you experienced in jail?
My friend or my cellmate was attacked by another inmate. And they I don't know what happened exactly because I didn't see, but like the back of his head was busted open and there was blood all over my room. And then I think the guy who did it threatened me afterward. So
you think he threatened you?
No, the guy who I think did it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, yeah, that kind of like put me on edge.
I can imagine that'd be really scary.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, it was.
How did you respond to that?
I think I said, what do you mean? Because I kind of wanted him to admit like what he did. But then he was like, oh, like, I don't know what I mean. I was like, okay. So yeah, but other than that, it wasn't that bad. I played chess. I worked out.
Yeah.
I read more books than I had in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I read like 9 books
Wow.
in 37 days.
So that was like, so this is like the positive kind of aspect of it for you. You said you were like away from your cell phone, which you really liked.
That's probably the biggest thing. Like being away from the cell phone kind of like detoxed me. I was able to just read and
Yeah.
not be distracted by the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, like being in jail is bad, and I would never want to go back. But also, like, I want to kind of use that as like a positive experience and
The structure aspect of it.
yeah, like I want to like get in a routine like I was in the jail, like
Yeah.
reading and working out.
What I don't, if you feel comfortable, what were the kind of people you were in there with? Like, what were they charged with? If you don't have to answer that if you don't want to, but just to have an idea of like, you know, there was you who you're a peaceful person. You didn't do anything to anyone. You know, you were just in a tree in a forest and charged with domestic terrorism, but then you got put in a cell or in prison, or not prison, but in jail with these other kinds of people. We heard like what someone did to your roommate. Like,
Yeah, so most of those people were charged with murder, armed robbery, like assault, stuff like that.
Do you think, were you the only other like you think like non-violent person in there?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. There's someone in there who was like falsely accused of rape and by their like wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just had to be in there like for a while. A lot of those people were in there for a while, like some of them over like a year.
A year.
Yeah. And you know, they haven't had like their trial yet. And you know, some of these people who did commit like murder were actually like very nice and chill. I mean, it's kind of fucked up, you know, they like made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's so many like factors that, you know, can affect someone to do that kind of thing.
So you feel like it's we really shouldn't be seeing these things as so black and white.
Right. And you know, jail and prison doesn't actually help anything, you know. It just makes things worse, you know.
It turns people into bigger criminals.
Well, yeah, like it doesn't solve criminality. It doesn't like it doesn't really make people change. Like I mean, maybe for some it does, but a lot of people just, you know, want to go back out and do the same thing.
Especially, well, I've heard a lot of like some stories of people that are in prison in particular for years and years and years. They become so accustomed to it, they can't handle the pressure of being on the outside. So they actually commit crimes to go back because they just are more used to being inside.
Yeah, they have everything provided for them in jail. It provides like a structure in a way. But the jails and prisons, just like the slaughterhouses, they just create more violence. Like there's violence inside of the prison. It doesn't help violence on the outside of the prison. I think it just creates more violence.
But yeah, so you know, the thing is, you learn, it seems like you met some of these murderers and you developed you developed some compassion for them and saw that they're really multidimensional people. That,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not just black and white.
So what are your plans now that you're out of jail?
I'm gonna work on myself. gonna eat raw food
Yeah,
and work out. And,
I'm gonna get him to eat some lentils.
And I'm gonna read a lot of books.
We have some questions here. Low Raw says hashtag boycott meat and all other animal products of cruelty and exploitation in any way possible. East Coast Philosophy says true we shouldn't see things as black and white, but what's the alternative to prison? To take care of yourself, man. That was nice. So what in terms of what's happening with the Atlanta forest, what do you suggest people? How do you suggest people? How can they learn more about it? And if they want to get involved, how would you suggest they get involved?
Well, I think people should learn about all kinds of forests, not just the Atlanta forest. I think, your local environment is really important, and just learn about plants, other living things. Go for walks outside, explore all the nature around you, and try and preserve as much of that in your local area as possible. You can read about the Atlanta forest. There's a Twitter page. There's a couple websites like I don't have the exact URL memorized, but it's probably like defendtheatlantaforest.com or .org. There's
I think it's .org.
.org. Yeah. I think the problem, I think one of the ways we can help, heal people and the environment is just learning more about ecology. And that's sort of this ties in with the prison question too. What's the alternative? We have a toxic environment. That's what causes people to do all these crimes and commit violence. We're unstable. We don't have our basic needs provided for us by capitalism. We're forced to participate in this.
Capitalism is all about competition, so it's always about competing for needs, right?
It's about competition, and it's about destroying the natural environment and turning it into something that you can sell as a product. And that's destroying ourselves. Capitalism is the problem to the whole prison system. It feeds into that. So I think the solution is to in capitalism and just learn about.
You say end capitalism?
Yeah, in capitalism.
What's the alternative?
Not well, it's basically just when you have rent and taxes, you're basically creating that problem of you have to continuously pay that, and you do that by extracting resources for providing goods or providing your labor. So you have destruction of the natural environment and slavery. So if we ended capitalism, we would fix a lot of these problems. And
I agree, but I'm still looking for the alternative. I don't know if we're gonna figure that out in this interview, but
I don't know either.
Anyway, thanks for speaking up and sharing your experience about what happened in the forest and at DeKalb County Jail in Georgia. And is there any? Do you want people to be able to reach out to you or?
No.
Okay. All right. We're signing out.